Yeah, 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 that's quite smart. Geez, I know there was a reason that I like to spend this time with you. It's because of your awesomeness. Um, so, yeah, I don't know. What do you think? I've been quite busy this morning myself, so I haven't had much of a time to reflect on how I'm feeling and
Hmm. What about, would you be able to relate to the idea of saying no? Is it something that you struggle with, or is it easy for you?
um, no, I can definitely bring that idea in. Oh, okay, yeah, really easily because I don't always know what my feeling is towards something. So the default is to kind of say yes in this sort of um like if I look at the comparison, my wife is very like yes and no, and that's it.
Hmm.
And she the Finnish way too is not to beat around the bush. Maybe it's something to
Yeah.
do with the language of it when they can say yes and they can say no and it doesn't mean anything. And
Hmm.
a while ago I was it's interesting. A while ago I was exploring this because I would use the Finnish word for no, which is a. And you say
Hmm.
"Hey, kiitos," which means no, thank you. And so I would
Hmm.
say that to people, and that had a different feeling. I didn't feel any sort of guilt or any
Yeah.
way.
Well, A means yes in English, doesn't it? A and nay.
Hey, well, in Australian anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's yeah, I was doing that for a little while. So maybe I'm wrong in saying that I didn't know. Do you know what I mean? Like if I could say a kiitos, no, thank you straight away.
Hmm. But you were still making the choice to use those words instead of your words. So maybe
Yeah.
there was a part of you that was still having a strategy.
Yeah. I guess that's the yeah, okay. I'm sort of like looking at it in terms of um like the strategy is to not like I'm saying in one hand that I don't really have a if someone asks me something in English and I'm not really sure, then I'm hesitating a bit. And I'm saying yes, even though that I might mean no in the future.
Hmm.
Maybe there's something that's happening in that regard. Whereas on this hand, if I respond with a kidos, it's almost it can be straight away. So
Hmm.
I'm saying that I do know in the moment of someone asking me what I want,
Hmm.
but it's just that on this hand, I'm unable to.
So does this relate to just when you're interacting with people in Finland? Like
No,
if it was to be Australian, or because you
no,
wouldn't use those words with them, with your family, or
um, no, but somehow it affords me an easier. Like I don't get the feelings that come with
hmm.
saying no. And I
Okay.
got the feeling that it's quite quick, that I know if you ask me to come and do something, and I know exactly what I feel about that, but then maybe I don't want to feel what comes after that, the repercussions of, saying no. And so then I
Mm.
step into this not knowing state. It seems complicated, but in my mind, it seems quite easy. But tell me about you're referring to this last couple of days having some friends over.
Yeah, I tend to overcommit and um, and then sell myself short where I um, don't meet my basic commitments, like having dinner ready for the children on time, or um, like today, having to do my yoga at 8:30 at night when I'm already quite tired from we went out on the boat yesterday, my brother's boat, and went biscuiting and stuff like that. So I was tired in the body,
Mm.
and yeah, I just it is an issue for me with everyone, even my parents, saying no when I'm feeling overcommitted.
Do you know in the time that you are saying no do you know what I mean? Like when you are overcommitted, or is it a case of like thinking that you can do more?
It's both. So there's definitely when I realized that I might want to say no, like
Mm.
for example, today I had to say no to my brother. He wanted my girls to go somewhere with him, but we had someone coming to the house to teach them how to crochet. So I couldn't send them. Um, and I sent my first message saying, sorry, I can't. We've got something on, and sent that. And then, oh, it got the better of me. And I had to say, oh, because our niece is coming over and she's doing this, and then this is happening, and da, 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 and this is why I've had to say no. Of course, I would if I could. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And I do that all the time. I feel like I can't just say no, that I have to somehow explain myself so that the person doesn't feel that I don't like them or that I'm
Yeah.
not interested or something
It,
like that. And I also appreciate if someone says no to me, I will respect just a straight no. Like I would never come back and say why not, because I respect that a
yep.
no is a no.
Yep.
But it's certainly nice if they just say, oh look, I've got something on, or I'm not home, or I'm really tired, or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, okay. So it's interesting because as you was talking, it came up into my mind this idea of actually saying that, saying the worst thing that could be said in that moment, which is, no, I'm sorry, but I just don't like you and I don't want to hang out with you. Do you know, like the honesty of that and the fear of that being the idea that that would be put forward. Um, and then even in the reciprocal kind of thing, in terms of needing to have it, like needing to not feel that way too, I guess,
Mm.
some ways by the person saying, hey, we don't have the time, or so maybe the core of that or this is this idea of not being liked or not being wanted or not being hmm,
Yeah, and also, well, for me, this could be wrong actually. Now I think about it, but sort of unconsciously, my idea is that it's the maintaining of the relationship
hmm,
as well. I do treasure my relationships, so the idea of being too blunt or too assertive feels like a threat to the relationship.
yeah.
Mm.
I think that goes hand in hand though with you know, the mm,
Yeah, like where's the line between, what's polite and relationship affirming, and what is, I suppose, betraying yourself or um, people
act,
pleasing. Like, where's the line? Because I know with you, if I need to skip a session or something like that, I always want to let you know
yeah,
that I'm genuinely skipping the session for this reason.
yeah.
And it's important to me that you view me as being genuine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But are you suggesting though that it might not be at times, Are you suggesting it? I'm not trying to put anything on you or anything. I'm just the devil's advocate a little bit in that there's oh, it's interesting. Like that there's these moments where, like where you just don't want to do it
Yeah, I
genuinely.
suppose as you're talking, my mind's gone back to being a teenager.
Yeah.
And I certainly did string some lines. And my mum knew.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you're talking, it's almost like I'm still trying to prove that I'm over that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe that's where you can start. Um, I've got something in there too. I got this something in that same sort of vein, but for me, it feels a bit more like, oh, okay, I can see actually. The thought came that, oh, I don't want to hurt someone, but then it came really quickly, exactly what you're saying about I don't want to jeopardize the idea of relationship with someone in that moment. Um, so maybe it's the thought of loss or the fear of being alone or being abandoned or something like that.
Mm.
That I mean, this
Yeah.
is
Another thought. Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry, no, after you.
I was going to say another thought that just came up while you were talking then is also uh, the knowledge that you're probably going to see this person again, and that awkwardness. Like, how do you conduct yourself when you've not been open with someone? Or that makes me feel a bit immoral or something. Um, like my daughter got invited to a birthday party and she didn't really know this girl and she didn't want to go. Oh, no, it was for a catch up with this girl. And doesn't know her very well and she doesn't want to go. And I know that this mum is trying to organise the play date because her kids had a real rough time and she really likes my daughter. But my daughter's like, no. And that was so hard for me to put into words that the play date, we weren't going to have the play date, knowing that I'm probably going to see this mum every day at school. You don't want that awkwardness or that like I hate ignoring people or being ignored. You know that like being seen through because you've been rude and so you don't exist to that person. That's
Yeah,
something else I struggle with. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, that's another interesting kind of avenue. And maybe that's actually more appropriate in this moment than the idea of losing someone. Do you know? Maybe it's more
Mm.
about the idea that when I come around this person again, I'm going to have this feeling that's here, that I'm not comfortable with and that I don't really like. And
Yeah, that is a good one too, because I bet you will get into the idea of how we wish to be seen.
mm,
The mask that we put forward or the persona that we put forward.
oh,
Mm.
okay, because you can't. Oh, interesting. Oh, I think I don't know. We want to go down this thing. Maybe we should go and do some exercise or something. Um,
Yeah, we'll go and hunt for unicorns.
I didn't sort of like in my mind it's coming through now of the mask doesn't work with this person because they've seen some side of me and so there's that part that's been, I guess, that you can't hide. There's the two parts. There's that they'll notice that there's a face being put up, a good face,
Mm-hmm.
and then they'll also know that underneath is this other face of whatever it is, a resentment. It's coming through for me as a resentment.
Mm.
It
See,
depends.
when you started talking, I took it the other way.
Okay.
So, for example, with you,
Yeah.
something I enjoy about our relationship is I don't think twice about what I say.
Yeah.
So, if I was to lie to you about skipping a session,
Yeah.
I would then have to be on guard when I talk to you, and I don't want that.
Yeah.
So then I suppose you do have relationships with people where it's okay to maybe say, oh, look, I can't make it, and this is why.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe it's not all people pleasing and masks, but then what you're saying, it goes the other way as well.
Okay, so let's make this a bit more practical, shall we? It's been
Yes, we
interesting.
are.
This has been quite a conversational and an inquiry conversation, I think. I think we've like moved
Yeah,
further forward in different ways. Um,
brainstorm before.
yeah, yeah, all the different kind of avenues. Um,
Mm,
but when you come back to the start of this and And we started with this idea of not being able to say no.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what happens when you sort of focus on that idea?
Yeah, and see where it goes.
Yeah. And for me, it immediately comes up with my dad and being a child and like screaming, no, 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 um, which is interesting. Okay, and then sort of something else that comes straight after that is actually seeing an image of you in my mind and sort of lying to you in some way, like saying something that isn't entirely true and in this kind of interaction in my mind, I notice that, oh, that you've seen that it's not true. And you kind of walk away with this thought in your mind of it not being true. And it's almost like you're holding that memory of me, and that feels a bit vulnerable and like I don't know, like you can use it against me or something. It's interesting that that came as well. What about you?
Yeah, well, I was when you said about you saying something that wasn't quite true to me,
Hmm.
and that I would hold that information.
Yeah,
What that does for me is very different to that. So, noticing that something didn't add up for some reason, and immediately I go to, he doesn't value me. I've done something,
yeah,
and I deserve to be out of the loop now. So yeah, I turn it on myself rather than thinking that you have done something.
yeah.
It's that I have done something. Mm.
And
And
how,
that's a pattern for me as well.
and what's the experience of that in this moment?
Shame.
Hmm.
Yeah, shame of sort of feeling unworthy that for some reason I've done something that you can't be honest or um, let me in the loop.
Yeah. So it's just coming into my mind. I'm following along in my mind too, but it's coming in to find the contrast of that of just stepping out of that shame and then stepping into being in the loop, so to speak, and what that feels like and what that looks like.
Okay. So coming into the loop. So for me that means remaining in the relationship, remaining in the friendship,
Yeah,
and just feeling in my body like this huge chasm between us. And it's like a sense of waiting for you to accept me again.
yeah.
Like this, it's separation, big feeling of separation from you. And there's also a part of me that doesn't want to be there because I'm obviously not wanted.
Yeah.
So it's easier just to walk away.
And how does that, like, what's the experience of that, of walking away?
So physically in the body, it's in the skin on my shoulders. I can feel it. And it's a feeling of shame and a feeling of sadness to think that I'd stuffed up the relationship unknowingly.
Okay, and then does that lead into what you think about yourself in this moment? What this is saying about you?
Yeah, and it's a very familiar feeling. I can feel it in my tummy. And it's this belief that there's something about me that I don't know and that I don't seem to be aware of
Yeah.
that causes these problems.
Okay, so just one more maybe question
Mhm.
is do you find yourself then looking for that? Is there an action to do something?
No, it's
No?
not actually. It's a helplessness,
Okay.
a poor me. Yeah. And then it comes up. I can feel something coming up that's like wanting to ask, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
But not being able to,
Can
too
can
afraid
you
to
ask me?
confront. Pardon?
Can you ask me?
What did I do wrong?
Yep. Oh, so many things. What's the worst I can say to you in this moment?
I just don't enjoy your company.
Alison, I really don't enjoy your company.
Yeah, like even though I know this is inquiry, there's a somatic response, like a big flushing through my
Yeah.
face, down my arms, down my body, into my legs. And it's hot, a heat, and I just feel crushed,
Mm.
even though I'm looking at it and I know it's not. Well, I hope it's not real.
It's quite hard to say that too, actually. I'm just trying to find that in my experience as well. It's interesting too, because I mean, I've done a few sessions on saying this to someone, for real when I was younger. And it might have been with you too, actually, but
That you said it to someone.
yeah, Stephen Stansfield.
Yes. And then he had a he passed away.
No,
Is that that guy? The
no,
family
no,
friend?
no, that was
No?
a different one.
Oh,
That was
okay.
that was a different one. This was actually when I was a lot younger, and um, and I sort of started hanging out with this dude, Stevens. I was really young, maybe 8 or 9, and for some reason I just didn't enjoy this person's company. He was really rough and he liked to fight, and I guess in some ways I was a bit afraid of him. And actually, I lied. I said to him that my mum said I can't play with you anymore, and I felt really bad. And I can still see him in my mind, like riding away, and with this look on his face of hurt and okay. And then like I'm waiting for it to just turn a little bit too, and I can start to see a few people from that age where 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 the was reciprocated, where the thought was, hey, I don't want to be with you, and you need to go away. And yeah, the shame that comes with that, I guess. It's hard as a kid, hey. It's hard if you've not felt those things before, and you're kind of stuck in that place of not really knowing what to do with the feeling. I can feel it in my chest now, and I can see how in that moment in the memory I'm unable to feel it, and the taking things really personally, and the shock of it too, like that that only a couple of minutes before or a couple of hours before you thought that something was a particular way, and then there was this shock in that moment of being told that no, I'm completely wrong, and that seems to pull the rug out from underneath. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going back to my childhood as well. And it's this image that's come up heaps of times in my life. And it's sitting outside my sister's door that she shut in my face after befriending me to borrow all of my Barbie stuff and thinking, yes, she actually wants to play with me. She was a lot older than me, so it was tricky for her to play at my level.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, that crushed feeling when she shut the door in my face of realizing that she'd been nice to me to get my stuff.
Mm.
Yeah,
That
it's a very similar kind of feeling in my body, but it feels more real.
mm.
I can see kind of two things coming up.
Yeah.
One is a hardening towards her, and one is a almost like a desperateness. I will do anything. I will be so careful, and I'm still very careful with her. So I can be hard if she's going to come in and reject me again, but I'm also there if she gives me any attention. I'll just lap it up, kind of thing.
That was really, really important for me to hear that because it it made me look at what came for me from that situation in my mind,
Mm.
and and how has that affected me in the way I am with people. And it's interesting to look at it in that way, like in that moment almost of, oh, okay, I'm I'm having this kind of response, or I'm getting this like belief stuck in my mind of needing to respond in this way so I never feel this, I never make someone else feel this ever again. And that means that it's really hard to say no. Hmm. Did you have a chance to speak to her after that? Like, were you able to? I mean, maybe you're a bit too young to formulate the things that were going on, and I'm sure that they would come out in particular ways. You know, the resentment and maybe the neediness. Um,
Mm.
I'm
Yeah,
just
no.
wondering. I'm kind of wondering though if you could go back to that moment and speak to her and just tell her what you're feeling, would that make any um like would that be able to sort of close the loop so that you wouldn't have to move from those points again from that I'm talking to myself here too.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I was probably 6 or 7 at the time. So I probably wouldn't have, I just would have gone in there and trashed her stuff and pinched my stuff back and slammed the door.
Yeah.
But if I think about talking to her, if I sort of take the age out of it, think about talking to her about how that made me feel at that point in our lives, the resentment that she had towards me, I don't think it would have been possible.
Yeah. Well, is it possible now though?
Recently, very recently, yes.
And how, like, if I guess I'm asking, and the reason I'm asking is because I'm sort of doing it for myself in my own mind. What would that conversation be in this moment with her about that time?
Um, yeah, if I told her what happened, how I have held on to this memory now, I see her crying and holding my hand
Yeah.
and saying sorry. And then um, just trying to explain to me her struggles because she's had some struggles, trying to help me understand that it wasn't personal.
Yeah.
So I could do it now.
Would you do it back in that moment of her shutting the door in your face? Like, for me, it's coming, there's a few of these images in my mind that are quite
Mm.
strong. And there's one where he's walking away. There's one about me sort of looking down as I'm speaking to him and saying, "Oh, my mum doesn't want me to play with you anymore,"
Mm-hmm.
big cop out. But then in that moment of him running away, I just say stop in my mind. And there's quite a bit of emotion here with that because
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I hurt myself as much as I hurt him in that moment, which is
Why?
ah like the pain. I could feel his pain. I could
Mm-hmm.
I felt my own shame, not being able to be honest and not. I mean, this is all like from an adult's point of view,
Mm-hmm.
but in that moment, I felt like the strong pain of rejection, and even
What
though I was
hap-
on the other side.
what happens to his pain if you are honest?
Well, that's what happens is like I in my mind I replay the scene and I stop him and I bring him back and I'm sort of like still a child, but I'm a child now with my own hindsight. And I'm just sort of like looking directly at him and saying, look, I I did enjoy our time together, but you're just a bit too rough and you're angry, really angry all the time, you're really volatile and it makes me afraid. And um and it just seems safer for me to say all of this to you now and not have to deal with that anymore. And okay, and then I sort of like what happens is I get this impulse from him of, hey, this is the reason I'm like this, this is the reason I'm angry and I get this kind of impulse of home life for him and um him not being able to, you know, like do anything about his anger. And I don't know, there's just this kind of this communication that happens where where in a way he's saying that, that he's sorry as well for being in the way that he is. And sort of as I watch it, this understanding arises between us um, and then like this image now that I've got of him riding away, he's actually riding away happy. He's not riding away sad. And And I'm not walking away with my head down and feeling shame. I'm just like waving to him. See you later. And then actually, because I remember I went and stayed at his place one night, and before any of this happened, and it was a nice time, and I feel that the niceness of that was, I don't know, I don't know. Like I feel like that badness, which was the thing that was between us, is now understood in some way, and the goodness of the times that we did have together was the primary. And I'm interested to know I'm interested now to like look at the repercussions of this, um, because there are repercussions of this event that made me be certain ways from that point on, so I didn't have to feel that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm interested now to a little bit um, explore the possibilities moving forward. But having said that, I'm quite curious to hear what's happening for you.
Yeah, so when you were honest with this person,
Mm.
it came to me what I suppose my core truth would have been in that moment with my sister. And all it was, do you love me? Do you want me? Just this little kid looking up. And the answer was no, I can't stand you. And that's um, certainly something that stuck with me. That feeling, even though I never spoke those words, I knew it. I could sense it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like I'm in quite a tender place inside of seeing how much of my life I spend trying to read that in others, especially people that I hold dear. And the fear of being annoying and hated, and yes, I would call it hurt and shame. And I can feel it in my face and in my skin and in my heart.
Mm.
And that's where I'm at now. Um, and I'll just sit there.
Mm. My mind is going to a few places at the moment. I'm seeing that a similar sort of situation happened with some people, and it was actually a benefit. Um, it was, yeah, actually a benefit. Oh,
What do you mean?
okay. I'm seeing it actually a few times. This kind of theme of being friends with someone and then kind of getting ejected. Okay, so if I come back to this sort of the repercussions of this, this new interaction with this person, and it's almost like I can see it's happening in a different way where I'm just sitting down and saying, look, I'm sorry, but this is, the pain or whatever of sitting and having a conversation with someone is a lot less than the pain of lying and um yeah, I don't know, than just like lying, I guess. I'm just sort of looking through the life now to see if there's any um, anything that stands out that requires the same attention. Hmm. I'm seeing a few girlfriends actually. Yeah, it's like the wrath. It seemed easier in the moment to just sort of fade out into the background than to have to be honest and explore the wrath of of that particular point of view. I'm a little bit wondering as well about this idea of love. You were talking about love, asking this question, do you love me? And that stuck in my mind a little bit because because I have the feeling of loving all of these people that I've had to say goodbye to. Like even now, not, and that almost, it's like two different things. This love that I feel for them, and then this liking and disliking. Um, I don't know. I don't know if that's like, does that affect you in some way, alternating this idea of love and like into the question?
If I bring it to my sister, the situation I've been working with,
Mm,
that was probably the truth. She loved me, but she didn't like me. And as a parent, I can relate to that too. Sometimes there's days where like you love your kids like crazy, but geez, they might go through a little phase or something that you don't really like, and you just hold on to the love. Like seems more personal. Like and dislike seems more personal to me than love, which
mm.
sounds weird out loud.
Okay, and like something that's a bit funny. I mean, feel free to just disregard this altogether, but something that comes in that's a bit funny to me is this idea of liking and disliking parts of ourselves. Um, do you know there's this having said what we've just said just then, there seems to be this irrationalness of disliking a part of ourselves because then how does it feel personal? in that regard. And I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but it's sort of just skewed in my mind that, oh, it doesn't actually make any sense to dislike or like a part of ourselves.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that because when I apply that to myself,
Mm.
um, oh, it made sense just before when you were saying it. It's left me now. I mean, trying to say it out loud. So there are parts of myself. Oh, yeah, that's it. I can say that I dislike or hate parts of myself.
Yeah.
And if you were to say why, and it's because it thwarts my favorite relationships. And if I look back to my sister and not feeling loved or liked, there's this feeling that that's in the way of the hope of something more in the relationship. And bringing it back to the idea of not saying no. Like if my sister had come and just asked me, oh, can I have all your Barbie gear? And then I'm going to shut myself in my room and play with it.
Yeah.
Even if she had done that instead of butted me up, I still would have said yes in the hope of more in the relationship.
Mm. Is it clear what that more would be?
Well, I guess if I look at it objectively now, it's a fantasy of just this one sided adoration, all roses, all connection, all fun,
Mm.
all loved up. Yeah, there's not a lot of room in this for reality, which is that we all have all sides. There's a rejection of that other side that isn't the loved up side of her and of me. Yeah. So not saying no in the hope of a fantasy that can't exist, I guess. And the parts of myself that I say I don't like or that I hate
Mm.
are the ones that showcase that other side, the misophonia, the worry, stuff like that, the
Would you
anger.
prefer her to, I mean, she did butter you up. She did give you that love and adoration in order to get the Barbie stuff. But would you prefer that she was honest with you and just, I mean, which, even though one maybe doesn't feel as good as the other initially, which would you prefer from her?
I would prefer her to have just asked because
Yeah,
then I wouldn't have got my hopes up of more from the relationship,
yeah.
yeah, of a closeness. And realizing that it was all fake too hurts. Oh, yeah, and I can see that I do it with my kids in a different way. If I know that there's going to be a disappointment, I will spend some time on the relationship first
Mhm.
before I will then um, let them know news or whatever. I can see I've done it to my husband and my parents too. Probably a little bit less sincerely.
Mm. So does
You
that
know,
give,
that kind of makes it all diffuse a little bit. It's kind of like,
yeah,
oh, it's all just kind of spreading. That hurt, that knot of poor me is kind of like, oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I feel a bit more in the present moment now.
yeah.
How about you?
Yeah. It's been interesting to like watch you go through that. It's been interesting to ask myself a few questions about liking and disliking and
What came up for you on that? I kind of took over there.
no. I was like just with you. I was with you. Um, it's hard because it's like we don't really have a choice with what we like and what we don't like. Like I like to relate it to food in that I, I like apples, but I don't like oranges, and it's not a personal thing. Like I don't have anything against the oranges. I just don't like them. I can make a story against them in my mind. I can vilify them. Um, but the truth is, you know, I just I don't the taste doesn't agree with me. Um,
Is there a should there at all, or is it just easy for you? Just
uh,
don't like them.
no, I mean I can bring that in. I can bring in the idea of I should be, and then it relates to people. I should be open and I can definitely see that that can be the case.
Where
Um,
you don't sometimes don't accept your dislike, or you sometimes don't accept your like. Don't let it be.
um, I don't know. I think I can see in my mind that I can play that game quite easily of, uh, of the idea of society of accepting people and um, sort of playing along, playing the game a little bit, being nice and polite and those types of things. Maybe that's not always the case. But interestingly, it's coming into my mind that after a time, then the light comes, It's like there's this, you like something one day, and then at some point, it's inevitable that you're going to dislike it in some way. And then at some point, it's inevitable that you're going to like it again in some way. And I can see that with people and relationships that something that's together is going to separate at some point. And it's like a natural thing that happens. And especially with time and things, you start out liking someone quite a lot, but then time comes in and you see more things of them that maybe you don't like, or if they've been putting forward their best foot all the time and and you get all of the goodness and then all of a sudden you just start to get some badness. I don't know. It's that temporariness of things.
Mm. Yeah, it's
I
like I know that,
Yeah.
but hearing you say it brings up fear in me,
Okay.
even though I know it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to hang on
Does it, I mean,
to people.
does it come up
Mm.
of like, I mean, it's your family, no doubt, kids
Mm.
and
Family and friends, yeah. Wanting to always be in good favor, wanting
yeah,
to always have harmony, and that not being the reality. Because, like you say, ebbs and flows.
yeah,
Mm. Yeah, I find it makes me feel insecure, even though I live it. Yeah.
yeah. it's actual too. Hey, I mean, there are people that just come in and out of life. That's the actual reality of it. And the trying to hold things is effort and suffering in a way,
Mm. Mm.
and inauthenticity and separation within ourselves and with the other person. I'm a little bit wanting to come back to this idea of no and just sort of like let it roll on my tongue a little bit, and get used to the feeling of it. And just even just bringing that back into my mind, I had this feeling of of saying something, of like no to someone, with a bit of um emotion and like disgust almost. I can see that it's a reaction as well. It's the same type of thing. It's the same type of action. It's just with different words.
Yeah, it would be good to come back to it. And also that like how we talk about, or how you talk about, um suffering is moving away from a feeling, a sensation. I think sometimes a no, if it's reactive, can also be a no to the sensation.
100%.
Yeah. But then there are some no's that come from a different place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And we know that if we get that type of reaction that, there's something here, there's some sort of resistance to life or suffering or whatever. Um, and we can go back in and explore that a little bit, what it means, what the person's asking and what we think it means to us, and what identity we don't perhaps want
Mm-hmm.
in relation to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm
Mm.
sort of just like what's coming into my mind at the moment is just the practicality of it. That if I can let that first no come and not repress it, even say it, and then just say, hold on a second and let me just feel, what I want to feel about this. But I don't
Mm.
always have that time with people. And
Yeah. I think it depends on the relationship too, because I do that with my kids. I'll be like, no, hang on, let me get back to you.
yeah, I mean, it'd be good uh, yeah,
But I probably wouldn't do it. It'd be the just my kids, maybe Cam. Oh, definitely Cam, actually. Maybe mum and dad. But that would probably be the limit
yeah,
of people that I would feel that I would show that kind of behavior to.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. With my wife, it's like that too. I'll say no and I'll recognize that I'm having a reaction, and she'll recognize it too, and she'll be like, okay. And then not much time will go past, and I'll be like, fuck. Okay, yes, I can see I'm having a reaction. And because it moves through so quick in the mind, yes, I can see that I just want to be right in this situation, and fuck you, you're always right, and that upsets me. And it's good that I can have that with her. You're right, but how do we bring this into the kind of the world?
Yeah.
We have this
Because
across
that's
the board.
authentic, isn't it? That's authentic.
It is.
Yeah.
And
And what stops us from being authentic with others?
it doesn't stop
Mm.
anything. We have that initial reaction. We're not pushing it
Mm.
down. It's just coming for me as fear.
Same. Yeah. And it's not necessarily something that you want to let go of completely, because if you see someone about to do something, you want to be able to feel the fear and immediately be like, no,
Yeah,
don't do that. This is going to happen.
yeah.
if they're going to hurt themselves or, yeah, physically hurt themselves.
Yeah. I don't think that fear is, you know, like I see that in terms of the snake, that it's warranted fear. It's not a psychological fear. It's just
Mm,
body going, oh shit. It's the same when you put, my wife always says the same thing. If you put your hand in the fire, you're naturally just going to bring it back out again. You don't
yeah.
have to think about it or anything. It's just a response and it's
Mm,
appropriate. But like my wife, she's just someone will ask her, like I can think of two things. One was that they were asking about the sauna. We go to the local sauna um and the man was up there was saying, "Hey, do you want to join in this one Friday every couple of weeks where you look after the sauna and you get it's like and you get some sort of money off using the sauna."
mm-hmm,
And my wife's like, "No, I don't want that at all." Immediately, and
mm-hmm,
and I'm like, and I'm sort of stuck in this place of not really knowing what I want and thinking maybe it's a good idea, and then
mm-hmm,
sometimes I'll say to her too, hey, you can't just, sometimes you need to go outside of the things that you think that you want in order to expand a bit, I think,
mm-hmm,
but for me, it's this choking, getting choked up. And other times with the neighbors, they were asking us, they were talking about having chickens. And in the winter, they would need someone to go and like, look after them. And I was like, oh, and my wife's like, no, no, no,
mm-hmm.
we're not doing it. That's it.
Yeah.
And, mm,
Mm. Yeah, I
interesting.
admire that.
Yeah, she's like really good with knowing what she wants, and
Yeah.
we've got this good balance between us because I'm on the other side of that, and that I'm a lot more open with things and
Mm. Well, with the sauna one, what came up for me,
mm,
if I was in that situation, would be, well, I have to say yes, otherwise they'll think I'm lazy.
yeah,
And
yeah,
what right do I have to go and use the facilities if I'm not assisting to clean them?
yeah,
So then I just stop going
yeah,
without working through it or whatever. But yeah, that's
yeah,
where I go on that one.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a few things that come for me too. Lots of thinking, but I know my wife, she's a feeler. She'll feel it.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
doesn't feel good, or
Yeah.
I don't want to put my attention on that when I've got my attention over here. She's
Mm-hmm.
very focused and single-minded, and sometimes that feels to me like it's a bit of a railroading, when she it's not the way it is, but it feels like that sometimes. So sometimes I have to just say no. Sometimes I'll just say, no, I'm not doing it, even though I don't know if I want to do it but that feeling of needing to be in control, maybe.
Mm.
I don't know.
It's easier to change a no to a yes than it is to change a yes to a no,
Okay. Is it? Is that
in,
true?
in my experience.
It's easy. Can you say it again?
I find it easier to turn my no into a yes.
Yeah.
No, yes. It's easier to turn your no into a yes than to turn your yes into a no. Like
Yeah.
if you change your mind, yeah, I'm going to go. It's going to be great. We're going to do this. We're going to have so much fun. And then be like, actually, a week later, no, that would feel, I'd have a
Yeah.
hard time doing that.
You're
We
right.
have some friends that really want us to go to Japan with them.
Yeah.
And as soon as she brought it up, Cam was like, yeah. And I was like, no, because it's not going to happen. Like, what are we going to do? Sell ourselves to go to Japan?
Yeah.
And even though my friend sort of looked at me like, oh, come on, it would be so much fun.
Yeah.
I found it easier to stick to the no. And she's been asking me for about 18 months.
Okay.
and I can stick to the no. But if I had said yes and then I had to change it to a no, I'd probably find myself, sacrificing things and doing things that aren't quite in alignment in order to stay to stick to my yes when I've said yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't like to, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. I see 100%.
Some people don't have a problem with that though, but I find it hard.
In Finland too, it's one of those cultural things again that if you say yes or you say something, then that's it. And this is even aside from Sisu, the determination
Okay.
of actually doing the thing, but punctuality, if you say you're going to be there at 3, that's when you come. Not 5 minutes,
Yeah.
not 5 minutes after. You come at three
Yeah.
o'clock, and that's it.
Yeah. I like that. That would save a lot of airspace in my head if everyone was like
Oh my
that.
God, everyone's got calendars, and what? I want to. You can't just go and visit someone. You've got to. It's got to be on the calendar and agreed, and it's Finland too, so it's all traditional. You got to be there at 3. You got to bring something like a cake or something, or flowers or something. Even you always take something,
Hmm.
and then it's this like we have a coffee, and then we have some pula, and then the duration of it is only for this time, and it follows this thing, and it'll be the same everywhere you go. Maybe
Yeah. So you're
different
told when
color.
to leave.
Yeah. Well, no,
Mm.
you'll just get up. It'll be like, oh, right, it's that time. I'm like,
I'm
"Oh,
moving
maybe
to Finland.
I'm exaggerating it a little bit, maybe, but it's so ordered.
Yeah. Because I struggle with that ambiguity around when to leave.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm kind of, I don't know. I like ambiguity. I
I
like
don't.
ambiguity. I like not knowing in some ways.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it's not totally true, but mm.
Mm.
Okay. Let me